The fun little secret with this is you don't actually need Lego. If you've got something to build with, that works pretty well. If you are in the Perth CBD, that will work, David. If you're in the Perth CBD, I do have a couple of loan kits handy. If you can send someone racing down the terrace to riff, I can sling you a loan kit to build with. So that was Dylan's little challenge for me. All right, I'm going to throw up some slides just to help you set your brain in the right direction, and then we're all going to jump in and do a build if we can. So, for anyone that hasn't come across Lego Serious Play before, it's a method that's a process for facilitating the important conversations that we have in our groups, in our teams, in our organizations, in a way that doesn't sideline the people that have a visual instinct for grabbing hold of an idea, new ideas, doesn't sideline the people who have a kinesthetic instinct for grabbing hold of a new idea, and gives the introverts the same time and space at the table as the extroverts. Because we're thinking with our hands, we're activating far more of our brain, and we're just drawing out a whole lot more creativity and a whole lot more deep thinking. And it kind of does it like this. So if you follow your order of operations from in there, what we're doing is we multiply the power of our own hand-brain connection by the pile of bricks that we have in the middle of the table. I am going to kick all of you off with a big, broad, open-ended question designed to provoke some thought. After we've had a chance to build, we're going to share the stories. We're going to tell some yarns about the models that we've built. And by the end of it, we should have a well-rounded collection of ideas. When we're able to do this together in the room, every idea has found its right place amongst every other idea, and people tend to walk out with a pretty big smile on their face. So I'm going to take you through a couple of the key things that make it work, just to really angle our thinking and just get us approaching the building materials that we've got in front of us in a way that makes, that really kind of brings out the best of Lego Serious Play. The way Lego markets itself to us and the way we grow up playing with Lego is very much to build these literal models of outside world things. So on the left there, you can see that that's London. You don't need a story told about London because you can recognize London, and you can draw on all the stories you already know about it. I cut my teeth on 80s space Lego, and you could look at my spaceships across the room, recognize them as spaceships, and not need the story told about them. The way we work in Lego Serious Play, if you have a look at the model on the right there, Dylan was actually in on this collaborative build. That one invites a few more questions because it's not instantly recognizable as something that we have a context for. So when we look at the elephant, we draw on a few things that we know about elephants, but we need the context and we need the story that goes with it, and kind of the question that started it off. So the big question behind this one, this was a collaborative build between 6 of us. And the question was, what's essential to developing really great systems practice in WA? And that elephant, if I remember correctly, was about not needing to make quick progress, but every step we take needing to be purposeful and deliberate and impactful. That kind of limestone coloured wall was there as a divider between that open garden of leaning into complexity and finding, using it as a curious space for play on one side of the fence, and the dead straight line being guarded by someone who is now dead, that's been handed down to us by someone who's now dead, of the old-fashioned linear ways of thinking and linear ways of doing things. So there's all these kind of bits and pieces pulled together using the bricks as ways to help us tell a story. So when you come to have a build, one of the tools you're going to need to lean on is metaphor. So if Should have grabbed some of my bricks beforehand. I've got that one there. This is kind of my favorite one to give some examples with, because it is so simple. I've seen it turn up in so many different ways in all the workshops that I've run. We use the bricks as metaphors, so any brick can be anything you need it to be, because you're building a model and you're telling the story. I've seen this one turn up to represent marriage, because in the story it looked like a wedding cake. I've seen it, I'm going to run back to my bag for a second. Seen it turn up to represent professional autonomy and a blank canvas at work. So that participant said, well, if this is our existing systems and structures, what I need is this blank canvas of being trusted to do my job and to do it as a professional. And from there, I can build the colourful, creative stuff on top of that. I've also seen it with two of them put together. But we're all just being a bit punk about this, so we'll do it on the fly. One of my favourite examples of this one was where someone put two of them together, put a person on top, and she said, well, I've just stepped into a new role and I feel like I've got really big shoes to fill. So from that quite literal to, that quite literal, it looks like a cake, through to your quite kind of abstract blank canvas, through to illustrating your familiar turns of phrase. Any brick can be anything you need it to be, and sometimes a brick is just a brick because you want the thing to be taller. The other tool that we're going to use is storytelling. So I've got my little photo of my 4-year-old daughter after she's 2.5 there. After I completed my certification as a LEGO Serious Play Facilitator, stocked up my kits, and she was absolutely thrilled. Didn't care about the Lego, but loved the 24 identical cardboard boxes. So when we tell stories, we invite a different kind of listening to what we normally do in meetings that are tightly on the clock. So rather than listening to respond, it invites people to listen to understand, particularly when there's a weird looking physical model that needs to find its right place amongst all the other weird looking physical models on the table. So the other really important thing there is that by participating in a story that uses some physical objects, it helps it stick into our brain a lot better. The reason I've got this photo of my daughter here is that in this photo, these aren't her cardboard boxes. These aren't my cardboard boxes. These are her dogs. So she's got 3 lying down having a sleep, and the 4th one's in her lap and she's brushing it. She's got toy dogs. She's got toy brushes for them. But the fact that these aren't those toys is what makes it powerful. So she's way too young for metaphor, but she's right in the pocket for pretend play. So the act of attaching significance to a physical object and using it to participate in a story in that kind of whole heart, whole mind, whole body sort of way, helped it stick in her mind far better than just hearing a story, just telling a story. And I got proof of this because she didn't see this photo for about 4 weeks after I took it. And she saw me pulling it onto my laptop from my phone, and she went, oh, there's my dogs. And I asked her to rebuild the entire story for me, and she could spell it out in absolutely every detail. This is the kid who couldn't remember that I asked her to go and get her shoes by the time I'd finished asking her to go and get her shoes. So that power of storytelling and that power of participatory storytelling is really what helps bring this together. So we're going to jump into a build. Dylan's going to angle his camera down at our bag while we all have a build. And it's going to go through these 4 stages. I'm going to throw you a question. We'll take some time to build. We'll take some time to tell some stories. And I'd love it if we could post some photos of the models, maybe with a little sticky note with just with a couple of words that capture it on that Miro board, so we can really bring all those ideas into the same place.
So Joel, I'm going to jump back in here.
Yeah.
I think we might have a bit of a curveball. is I never told people that they needed Lego at home, so we might need to get them building with other tactile elements that they've got at their workstation. So we're going to have to wing it a bit.
Cool. I've seen it done with people raiding their bookshelf and building out of those. I imagine it could be done with the contents of the second and third drawer of your kitchen.
Let's maybe just put it to the attendees here. Who's got Lego? Just in the chat, yes, no. And then for those that don't have Lego, we're going to help you find something to build with. But David's no. Thank I hope I pronounced that right. Yes, has Lego. Usha doesn't have Lego. So we yes, no at the moment. Everyone else, just drop a yes or no in the chat. If you have kids, can you go and find some Lego in your household? Does anyone have Lego in the office? I know a few offices that have Lego. Our office has Lego. So someone's kids have grown up and they've got rid of the Lego. That's okay. So how about this, Joel? So how about we just challenge everyone to build with some simple tactile elements. So it can be paper, and if you haven't got anything physical to build with, you just grab a bit of paper and a pen, or you can draw something on your computer. Just create something in the build. Will we be able to make that work?
Sure. I wasn't kidding about the cutlery drawer.
We've got someone with Duplo. Will that work?
This bag is absolutely chockers with Duplo. Yes, Duplo is amazing for it.
Right, so we got lots of Duplo here. Oh. Cool. Alrighty, so I might hand it back to you, Joel, and we'll just wing it as we go.
Cool. So that's actually quite a nice segue. The model you build is your answer to the question. So if it's not on the table, then it's not on the table for conversation. And that works in two ways. One is that if it's an important detail, make sure that it finds a place in the model that you build. By the same token, if there's a detail that you don't want to bring up into discussion and you don't want to offer that up for conversation, don't put it in the model. And then that kind of grants every builder the permission to share or not share at their discretion. There's absolutely no right or wrong way to go about it. So, some people build amazing technical models and there are moving parts that trigger other moving parts, and they're incredible things. And then there was the guy in my certification course who over a 3-day program never actually connected 2 bricks. And he'd lay out these wonderful little flow charts and use those to tell his stories. And when it came time to building collective models, we were always able to work with it because we knew that this clear thing here he was using to represent clarity of thinking, and we knew he was using this ladder to represent incremental progress, and we knew he was using this kind of block, this kind of barricade crate thing to talk about barriers to success. So it doesn't matter. There's absolutely no right or wrong way to approach it. If you get stuck, particularly for the people that have other building material that doesn't necessarily all go together as nicely as Lego, think with your hands and trust them. If you get a little bit stuck, just don't have a meeting with yourself. Just start putting things together, moving things around. It's not about putting together something beautiful. It's about using the building materials in front of you as a method of expression. And kind of that last point with my Fight Club graphic in there, it's more powerful the more stories that come to the middle. So the question I wanted to ask to get us all building to is, if we're talking about from cool to complex, I wanted to ask, how will being cool with complexity help us to better design the future? So how does, what's the potential and what's the opportunity for leaning into a complexity mindset? What are the benefits there for helping us to make better decisions about the future, to find new opportunities, to and to create better solutions for the future? So grab your building materials. If you've got some music handy, it's a really nice way to keep time. Just put a pop song on your radio. And let's build for about 3 minutes. I'm going to throw you another question after that. So we'll do sort of two little mini builds together as the one model, or as separate things. Entirely up to you. Let's jump in and build, shall we?
Cool, I'll keep time.
Cool.
So 3 minutes, off we go.
Cool.
For anyone that's just joined us, I think we had someone, I just let him descend. So we're just doing a 3-minute build, answering the question.
So yeah, your building materials use your building materials as metaphors for the elements of your story, and be able to tell a story about it. Should we jump down and build?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's hit it.
So Joel, I'm going to, do you want to jump in on this one? Okay. So we're going to build. Alrighty, for 2 minutes. So for this way, the individual academy school places. It just flew right into mine. Alrighty, so we've got about 30 seconds left.
So with those 30 seconds, just kind of cast your mind and your eyes over what you've built so far, and just make sure that every detail that is really, really crucial to it has a place in your model. Okay, so at this point, take a breath, come up for air, and I just want to ask you one other little question. In leaning into that complexity and in bringing together the things that you've already drawn on as potential ways to move that forward, what are the missing connections? So what are the things that we need to do between where we are now and and that ideal state of that you've built in your first model. So what are the missing connections? And that could be purely practicalities, that could be gaps in knowledge, that could be human connections that you need, or it could be, you know, a need for something else. So what are the missing connections? Let's go another 3 minutes.
Right,
together.
I'll time it up.
All right.
So just to clarify, Joel, that's a second build?
That can be an extension of your first build. That could be a second build. That could be, it could be something that you build underneath. It could be something that you build on top. There's no right or wrong way to approach it. So let it follow your story. Let's kick it.
Great. Round 2. Another 3 minutes starts now. Right, so I think we're about 2 minutes in, so we've got 1 more minute.
All right, so at this point, just cast your mind over everything you've built so far. Really kind of begin to step through the story that you've constructed, and make sure that everything that is crucial to it from your perspective has a place in that model.
Alrighty, that's 3 minutes, time's up.
All right, cool. So, finishing touches. Anything you're not using, push it away. Just give your models a little bit of clear space on the table. And we're going to go now to a round of sharing what we've built. So if you have been able to build something, it'd be great to be able to share that story. I'd say at this point as well, just grab your phone out and snap a quick photo. Because as we go to share, we're going to pick the models up, move them around, touch them, tell the story of that model, and really kind of have our hands on the bricks that we're talking about as we're telling that part of the story. The little part of Lego Serious Play that works better online than it does in the room face to face is that part of the etiquette is we listen with our eyes. So we avoid eye contact and we focus our attention entirely on the model. And When you're able to do this, then eye contact's just not a problem at all. And if you miss a detail in part of the story that anyone tells, absolutely ask some questions about it so that you have that really clear understanding. But following on from that idea that, you know, the model you build is your answer to the question, and if it's not on the table, it's not on the table. We ask questions of the model. So you'd ask me about, you know, the pillar and its significance, rather than, you know, digging into the details behind what I'd said. So I'm going to jump out of screen share now. And do we have a volunteer that would like to share what they've built first? Nice, David. Do you want to jump off mute? And actually, could you even, are you able to angle your laptop screen down? Just to show what you've built? Is that going to work?
Can you see that? I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
I can't see it now. Can you see it?
Pull it back towards you just a touch more. There we go. A little bit more. Yep. That's looking good.
Okay.
All right, talk us through it.
The circle represents the scope. So you look at everything, hopefully everything before you start. The pen represents communicating. The bolt and the two little bits are the initial build. The pen and the round bit, the washer, represents another review of the build. The next bit with the top and the bolt and whatever, that's the final build. And then you said you got to have a come back to the thing. So there's the yellow bit and the washer and whatever is a refinement. And there's the budgie seed, which the budgies don't eat, to look at the human aspect in that what you're doing is for people, or there's something that the reason why you're doing it.
Love it. I love that the budgie seed that they haven't eaten. Like, that's a beautiful metaphor for, you know, keeping that human centricity to design and having that as, you know, maintaining that as a focus.
We had a Mark in the chat. Joel, maybe we could bring him in next. Mark Holton. He drew on paper.
Sure. Oh, amazing. All right. Yeah, Mark, we'd love to.
Oh, hi. I'm a bit stranded for tools here at home, so I just used the greatest tool ever invented, a pencil and paper.
Can you turn your video on if you'd like, Mark, if you'd like to show us visually, otherwise you can just
I didn't anticipate that you wanted to see it, so I would have drawn it better, but I'm ashamed of the scribble, so I won't do it.
Hey, don't be ashamed of any creation.
Yeah, there we go. And I'll give others a chance. But yeah, I think a cool attitude, cool disposition, trying to open up dialogue, and that unlocks, you know, people. If you can synthesize that, put it back to them, they feel happy that you understand them completely. And then in that way, you're starting to crowdsource what you need to know and understand and see in your mind. Imagine an image, you know, as you were saying, you need an image to imagine, and then see that complex system and make better decisions, which I think is the theme of what you're trying to say. So there we go.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Now, did we have someone from our other room in the same building that wanted to share some of those? I can see you shifting nervously in your seats in there.
Yeah, I've got that for the first question. I think the value, oh, sorry, can't you see?
Yeah, bring it right up. Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's designer and community be able to look at complexity in a more solid form so that we can understand what really it is and how it's being different layers and stuff like that. For the second question, what is the missing piece would be, how can we get from here to there is to get people from high up in the policy making level and the higher management level to actually see the need of us to actually see complexity in that way. So it's a little bit of time and space thing. So for us right now to get there is for us to actually make it clear to the people who's got the power, who's in the policy making level, to understand the importance of that. So there you go.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
No worries.
Oh. Dylan, would you like to share yours?
I'm going to use a bit of tech here. Maybe go one more share from someone else in the group, and then I'm going to upload mine to the Miro board and share it digitally.
All right, cool.
I can't top Dylan, but I actually found, anyway, I won't explain where it was, but that was what I did. So it was always good to, throw things out. And I might introduce this a little bit at a time. I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice, very good.
So I'm just taking this a little bit literally, and I can't pull it apart too much, but it's kind of a creation here. Can you see that? All right.
Oh, cool.
So I found that this truck then could take the cool stuff around, and I think you can see everything. The real challenge, I think, in moving anywhere is having people facing in the right direction. And I found these two people that just couldn't handle looking in the same direction. So one's going one way and one's going the other. And so the complexity is getting these guys on board to kind of see that they're both trying to do the same thing, but they've still got the cool mints on board. But then the real missing connection here, I'm going to demonstrate, like this is not a bit of Lego, okay? Obviously we can see that. It can't stick. But I'd like you to just see if you can spot this. I'd like some feedback here. What's the most challenging part of this model? I'll give you a hint. So one's yellow, one's black. Yeah, that's the color challenge. But what's the actual challenge that I've got here? Anyone?
Trying to mine in shallow stopes.
Say that again.
It looks like a mining vehicle, a flat one. Sorry, I come from mining. Yep.
If you want to go a little bit more advanced, this actually goes around. That's a bit complex. But the actual added complexity, like if I pick this up, what's the challenge?
The challenge is the wheels aren't facing in the same direction.
Oh, you see, we're seeing lots of complexity. The wheels go, they'll turn.
Oh, they do articulate.
Yeah.
They do articulate. Okay.
But it's this bit here. This is incredibly complex, because what I've put on the back here is a piece of Duplo that's connecting to Lego. Now, I didn't think that was possible, and technically it's not, but that actually will work in that direction. I can lift it off. But the complexity, the missing connection was, how do you get these things to stick together? And I found that they did. So I actually had what looked like a complete package. And the complexity is, can that now perform a function? Well, it can spit. Oh, you see, there it goes. It's breaking. So my missing connection is, how do you connect Lego to Duplo? It looked like I'd done it, but I think the hidden complexity is that actually it didn't work. So there you go. I'll do with that story.
That's brilliant.
Nice.
It's amazing what's in the cupboard. Good fun, though.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
No worries.
Can we? So Joel, I've got mine in Miro.
Ah, nice.
I'd like to maybe bring in a bit more diversity here. Could we get a female on the call to share a build?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course.
Can't help you with that, sorry.
So I have a Lego here as well, and my son just handed me a whole box. I'll show you how big it is. It's like a giant box of Lego piece. So, well, I built something like this. It's kind of like the bottom part gives us this kind of platform to, if we stay cool, and to discuss the complexity, that give us the platform to chat. And actually, before your second question, I only have this part, just have like two participants. So when you were saying, oh, what actually is missing, I saw this and just say, oh, I can add this here to bring more stakeholder in the conversation. But what's kind of interesting to me is kind of like, just give me a second. It's kind of like, to me, this demonstrated the social distancing we have to cope with, especially for this kind of small character, if you can say. He is actually wearing a mask. So it's kind of this goggles you have to wear. So I think it's kind of like a resonate to what we are experiencing. How can we engage people in the conversation when we have to deal with all those challenges for the pandemic? And there's also a challenge for my complexity here. It's kind of like, now if I put on a table, it stays as it's have this kind of balance. However, if I move one figure from this kind of system, it will never stay the same. So to me, it's kind of also, it's the balance, what we are trying to achieve as well.
Cool. Amazing. There's a lot built into that.
So Joel, can I just jump in there?
Sure.
So we're at 5:30.
Yeah.
So if we can maybe wrap this up in about 5 minutes.
Sure.
Good.
Sure. Do we have anyone else? Should I share mine?
I think either you or me share yours. Mine's on the board, so we can look at that afterwards. So I think you share.
Cool. All right. Well, mine were quite simple. For me, kind of, it's the first question there of moving from like the benefits of leaning into that that more complexity friendly mindset is just kind of like, I'm sure the door's always open. People do genuinely want to do well, but generally people without that friendly attitude towards complexity, they're not, they're looking straight ahead. They're not looking up. And by looking up, it kind of allows whatever's coming through the door to see new opportunities, to see other interesting ways of doing things, and kind of gives you some cool opportunities to be more creative with the tools that we already have. And in terms of the missing pieces, I think the people that make the decisions that are kind of high up in established industries and established organizations, they got the tires on their heads. There's not that openness because of kind of whether it's risk aversion or whether it's being stuck down in kind of legacy ways of doing things. There's not that openness to fresh creative ways of going about things. So if we're able to get some people, climbing up to decision-making levels in large organizations that really can move the needle in the way things happen across society, then that's going to help them to look up as well, and to help kind of shine the light for more people to do that.
Cool. Great. Is that back to me, Joel?
That's back to you, Tom.
Great. So if you can just chuck yourself on mute. Fantastic, thank you. So big round of applause, big thanks to Joel. Awesome activity. Yeah, thoroughly recommend. We might bring Joel back in towards the end and have a bit of a discussion. But if you're interested in any of Joel's work, reach out, connect with him. I'm going to drop, I was going to say I'm going to drop him in the Miro board, but I'm going to drop resources on Joel and his business, the Very Serious Business Co. in Miro, and also in the Zoom chat. So if you're interested in Joel's work, yeah, reach out. Playing with Lego and the Lego Serious Play technique and a lot of other great things that Joel does is a big part of the theme tonight, which is the future of design. So big thanks to Joel. Hope everyone enjoyed that sort of tactile and creative activity at home, and thanks for partaking along and winging it. I'm now going to hand it over to both Andrew and Chris Hugh in one of our other rooms here at Space Cube tonight. So Chris is another good friend of Holonic and of Circular Economy Perth. So Chris is a design educator who works in the School of Design at ECU, and he's a huge advocate for design in Western Australia. He's done some awesome work over the years, research, community and capacity building. Chris is also one of the co-organisers of Service Design Perth, which is a fantastic meetup that I get along to semi-regularly and have learnt a lot from that community as well. So Chris, over to you if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we're looking forward to hearing your presentation on design and the future of design.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owner of the land that we're in today, having this presentation and this session across all of Perth. I think not much to talk about myself. You've introduced me well. I'm just going to get into the discussion today a little bit. I think what Joel did there actually set a very good scene and background for us to discuss about the role of design in the world of today that we're talking about. So we're talking about complexity, we're talking about circular economy and sustainability. So these are very complex set of situation that we're in today. So just want to draw back to a little bit to really discuss the role of design, because the past years there's a lot of discussion about what really is design, and design and sustainability, sustainable designs come together quite well in the past, and currently you can, well, we all know that the good work that Holonic's doing will integrate a lot of design discussions in there. So really want to explore a little bit more on what else could design provide to the future. The key word here is the word itself, future. The future of design is actually design itself, design futuring. Let's move on. Yeah, so a very quick one, design. What really is it? We know design by these things, objects, things which nothing wrong, but you know, as Victor Papanek say, you know, there are some disciplines that are more dangerous than design, but only a few. So the trend in design in the past so many years actually has created the situation that we're in today, especially in the ecology side of things and sustainability side of things. So we all understand design in that sense. And recently in the past 10, 15 years in Western Australia, we also start to realize and understand design in terms of its value in the design process itself, to clarify, to bring forth complexity. So you know, we understand design thinking. We use a lot of service design approaches to understand complexity and so forth. So you know, and then we understand that design is not just starting to always get into developing ideas and then make the ideas real. A lot of time design is about the first diamond as well, to really understand and reframe the problem that we're looking at. That's where the understanding of complexity comes in. So is that all about design? Is that are these things, are this transition from object driven to process driven, are these all about design? I think one thing common about, you know, transitioning between from object-driven, production-driven design to process-driven design is that both are still very solution-driven. We're looking at, we're doing a lot of this kind of design exploration with an objective of coming up with solution, which is good, which is very important, and that's one very important part of design, which is solution-driven. But there is also another part of design that that was kind of being emphasized in the 1990s, especially in the product design side of things, that we haven't really been revisiting that part. In 1990, some of you might remember, in the production of products and objects, there was a critique from the design industry itself saying that design needs to be more critical than just pumping out objects. And that was where the problem was, because mass production actually forced design to be just about pumping out a lot of objects, a lot of things, without looking at design being the power of questioning why are we doing this, without thinking about this, how could design provoke people to think. So the missing piece here is that we are still using design to get people to do things. But there's another part of design, which is using design to get people to think, getting to people to critique things. That part of design, I think from our perspective, we need to emphasize that a little bit more. So one way of defining design is that design is, you know, we can define design based on the technical output, like we are service designers, we're graphic designers and so forth. But the other way of looking at design is that we can actually define design based on the complexity that the design is in. A few years ago, Peter Jones and G.K. Van Patter actually start to think about, can we look at design in categorizing them based on the level of design that they're in? Design 1.0 deals with communication, form giving, whereas design 2.0, we're looking at experience, service design and product design. Design 3.0 is where we're looking at more complex problem in terms of organizational transformation. Design 4.0, in which we're looking at a wicked problem of transforming the mindset of a whole community, what we call social transformation or social innovation. So looking at that, if you look at in terms of complexity that we're dealing with, design 1.0, at the higher we go to design 4.0, the more complex the problems are. But if we turn it the other way around, right? And at the top, we're dealing with, you know, things that we can see, things that we can value and measure, based on the design 2.0, which is the methodology that we are doing in design process. But what is not being talked about a lot is the bottom two level, which is the knowledge creation or for organizational transformation, and then the worldview. So if we look at it in that way, that is kind of like an iceberg. So at the tip of the iceberg, we are currently doing a lot through design in sustainability and circular economy, which is, you know, we use a lot of design methods to get people to think differently, and then we can measure that that outcome, measure those approaches. But what we haven't been doing a lot is to get design to change the way organizations think, to get design to actually be a platform for conversations to happen, to get design to be actually an agent to provoke the community to change their mindset. To me, in terms of sustainability, to change 3.0, 4.0 is key, because we can pump up a lot of design solutions at 2.0, 1.0 and evaluate those. But if we're not changing the mindset, if we're not changing the policy, if we're not challenging policy making process, it would be difficult to actually make changes in 2.0, 1.0. So what I'm trying to get to here is that it's not hierarchical. It's not that 1.0, 2.0 are not important. Those are very important, but it's that they are all interrelated. That's where the complexity is. So if we're not transforming mindset, if we're not transforming worldview, it is very difficult to actually get people to really use the solutions that we come out in 0.0. So a few colleagues and myself, one of my co-authors, Funke, is actually here as well. So the past few months, we have been brewing and writing an article to really bring back this critical design component, this discussion back into service design. And I thought it would be quite relevant to circular economy and sustainability as well, because we're looking at now, how can we actually use design to do these three things? The first is, can we actually use design as a critique? Okay, can we use design process to critique policy, to challenge what is not right now? Okay, can we actually use design to get people to think, to provoke people to think differently in terms of what is in the policy making process that's hindering the efforts of sustainability and circularity? Okay, the second bit is that how can we actually get design to engage in more discursive dialogues? So this is quite important back in the 90s, where product designers saying that design is to be critical. Design cannot be just pumping out things. So how can design to help us to think rather than design actually just get us to do? So that thinking bit is actually quite important. How can we actually use design process to get government policymakers to actually come up with more discursive multi-layered dialogues and across different layers of the community as well. The last bit is that how can we look at design? How can we get design to reflect? How can we reflect within a design process? So there are two levels of reflection involved. One is that while we're doing design, while we're involving design in the discussion of sustainability, how can we get people to integrate more reflection in what they're doing? A lot of the methods currently available, the process available, are getting people to do things, all right? And you would have come across lean this and lean that, a lot of sprinting processes. A lot of those get people to come out, to focus on solutions a lot, but that reflection is kind of missing. So that's the first bit that we're trying to think about, how to integrate more reflection into design process. The second bit is what we're doing today is really looking at how to reflect back on the role of design in the community. I think we need to have more conversations in terms of having design to be critique, having design to be a discursive dialogue, and having design to be reflection. So quickly draw out design 2.0, we're looking at design being reflection, design being a reflective practice in human-centric design for circular economy and sustainability. Okay, so we can think about that when we're dealing with generating services and products for circular economy and for sustainability. But when we're moving up to design 3.0, when we're engaging policymakers and government and so forth in organization, we need to get more discursive dialogues to be involved. So we're dealing with design as reflection and design as discursive dialogues. And the fourth level, if we really need to change things around, we need to engage the whole community. We need to change the mindset of the whole community, not just the people who are interested in sustainability. Okay, so in that sense, we need to look at design as critique. We need to look at design as discursive dialogue, and we need to look at design as reflection. All three things in there. So we might come back to these discussions later with everyone else later. So I really want to end this with a very quick quote from Cameron Tonkin Wise, who is in the past 20 years one of the most influential design philosopher in sustainable design. So he's saying that any design that actually don't future, don't fiction, don't speculate, or don't criticize, don't provoke, don't discuss, any design that don't get people to think are not considered as good design. it's actually quite important for us to realize that design is not just a methodology to get people to come up with solution. Design itself can be a platform to generate discussions, to provoke different way of thinking, and to get the whole society to behave differently. So the questions that I want to put forth, and I don't have an answer to this one, is maybe to get everyone to start to think about this when we're engaging in a complex world, and to get design to be involved, is to how to rethink design as critique, design as discursive dialogues, and design as reflection to transform the society for a more sustainable future. I hope that's not too heavy for an afternoon chat. I'll leave it up open. I think we can.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was fantastic. So if you want to just stop sharing your screen there. Brilliant. So I'm going to, at this stage, just bring Andrew Thompson into the room as well, if he can squeeze in the three of you there.
There we go, can all squeeze in.
Right. So, Andy, if you just want to introduce yourself, and then also introduce our third guest for the evening, Erica Ormsby from Murdoch University. So, hi, Erica.
Hi, how you doing?
Andy, over to you.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Andy Thompson, work with Dylan at Holonic. So I'm originally an industrial designer from the UK, but have sort of moved into the circular space and sort of touching on a lot of the work that I'm doing on similar things that Chris has sort of been discussing in his presentation. So I think it's quite timely, and some of the discussions that we've had lately with government, I think there's space there, and I think the benefits of design that brings that sort of play element, takes it back to a different way of thinking and doing. I think if there's not, then the two things need to operate together is pretty interesting. And by me here we've got Erica. So you're from Murdoch University, but you've also worked as a designer in industry.
Still am, yes. Yeah, so my name's Erica. I'm a lecturer in graphic design and design thinking and service innovation at Murdoch University. I think for me, I've been a graphic designer for 25 years, and the process of design for me is literally discovery. I think that the nicest part about it is we don't know what's going to happen. It's interesting that you guys are talking about the future today. I think it's very hard to think about the future because we want to know all the answers. And I'm the same, but I think after designing for so long, I always know that there'll be some incredible discoveries that we'll find along the way. Even when things are incredibly complicated and overwhelming, the discoveries make it possible to find pathways through and design, great things from those moments. So I think that's, why I'm so passionate about design, and why I'm hanging around with Dylan Lamb probably more than I should be.
Bad input.
Great. So I might jump in and ask the first question, Andy, as well, and I'm happy to leave it to you to moderate in the room. I guess more openly, so we're talking about the future of design tonight, from cool to complex. What's the role of design in the circular economy transition? And maybe if we can focus that answer on the Western Australian economy. Maybe put that to both Erica and Chris.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So me. Okay. Look, I think what we're doing right now is how to do things. I think conversation is a huge vehicle for gathering kind of momentum. I was just thinking about when Chris was talking about the 4 kind of tiers of design and how they're interconnected, and I was particularly fascinated a few months back when the Black Lives Matter protests in America really hit a peak. And of course, we're looking at making major policy change, and obviously in America it's so entrenched. There's all kinds of, that's a complex issue going on there. And what I found particularly fascinating about it was when people that seemingly don't have any control over anything or any kind of powers to do anything came out and protested, which gave them a vehicle for conversation. And then they wrote Black Lives Matter on the sidewalk, which was this enormous visual communication that brought that statement to a world of people, including the international community, which, you know, you wouldn't normally have that if you were just having that conversation in your home. So I thought that was a really interesting crossover of those kind of 4 tiers, this idea that I think for someone like myself, I'd consider myself just an ordinary person living in my house with my kids and whatever, and I can't change policy. I can't have an impact on those things. But of course, when I watched that moment, I thought, that's it, isn't it? Like, protesting is one of the biggest ways throughout history. I was watching Barack Obama on David Letterman a couple of nights ago, fantastic show. And he was talking about how protesting is one of those great moments where you can, as a person with seemingly no power, can have a big influence on what that kind of top level can do and what they can, how they can change things. So I think, you know, in terms of the future, I think there needs to be some kind of, I guess, you know, formidable approach to how we can, you know, harness that conversation and, you know, bring it up more. I think Australians are too polite. I think we need to get out and do more of that. We're way too quiet about these things. So, but
that's great.
We haven't been enough for that to happen. That's where those uprisings come from, for repression, I guess. So, yeah,
fantastic.
We need some emotion, perhaps. Also.
Pipe up. Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, that's actually a very good observation, because for a while now, there's a part of design called design activism that actually, you know, encourage designers and, you know, use design as a platform for people to have their own voice. For the past, that have quite a lot of influence in terms of how people want to voice out to, you know, manufacturers and companies and organizations that are not ethical. You know, through design, we can design better things, to design out things that are not ethical. We can let people know.
Yeah, we can vocalize it. Yeah, and we can use design to make that vocal. And make it loud. Yeah, absolutely.
To come back to a circular economy, that basically is, you know, that's the role of design. We can actually get people to voice out how they want their future to be. You know, rather than getting the policymakers to tell us what the future should be.
We don't want that future.
No.
We don't want that.
And design itself is about, a while ago, Peter Lidl, I'm not sure how many of you would know Peter. Peter was one of the pioneer designers and architect in Perth. He sadly passed a few years back. I had the opportunity to listen to him a while ago, about 8 years ago, at ECU, where he was a guest lecturer. He said that the most beautiful thing that he experienced as a designer is that we are time travelers, because when we picked up a project, we always go back to the past to find out what's wrong. And then we go to the future to visualize what the future would be. And then we come back to the present to see where we can start to go to what we can do now to move towards that future. So it's actually quite interesting that when we talk about the role of design, design is actually about the future.
It always is.
Yeah.
It always is. It's about creating something that we don't know anything about yet. And not being frightened of that, I think.
Yeah. Speculation. So speculative design is part of that, you know. Critical design is always about getting people to speculate what could be.
I think that's one of the biggest roles of design. I think, and that's certainly what I teach a lot about, is that I've become very comfortable with the unknown. You know, and I think a lot of people, particularly policymakers, are not so comfortable with the unknown. I think the coronavirus is a good example of that this year. But that coronavirus, I'm going to call it an incident. It's not really finished yet, but it certainly showed that we can swiftly, you know, shift and change when we need to, and it's actually okay. And it turned out okay in terms of having to work from home or changing the way that we function in society to cope with whatever's happening. That was a big unknown, and I think as a designer, I'm very comfortable with that. I know a lot of people aren't, and I think that's a big part of moving towards the future, is being okay with not knowing what's about to happen, but knowing that something good can come out of what we kind of, you know, move towards. I think that's quite hard to sit with for most people, because we're not trained that way. But if we can shake that off and move like that, it's a good way forward, I think. I think obviously co-design, I don't know if that's been mentioned today, massive part of design. Designers don't make decisions based on everyone, and I don't think policymakers should either. I think the general public, and I think design is a a great, I guess, we can create a good scaffold for that to come together, where we can connect with policymakers and the general public, and everyone gets to have say in how we build that future that we want to have. And it not be a fixed future. I think that's kind of important as well, not a solution as such, but that it's fluid and constantly shifting and changing, and be okay with that as well.
Yeah, that's really good dialogue, Chris and Erica. I might just bring in some of the audience here. So we had two questions that have been put down in the chat, both from, I've just called them David 1 and David 2. So we've got two Davids on the call today. But I might just invite the second question to come in. So David had a question around based on Chris's presentation on the reflective practice of design, and when to reflect and when to take action, and how to sort of balance those two. Dave, did you want to just come off mute and sort of ask that question for Chris and maybe for Erica as well?
Sure. I think just in light of what you just said, I'm an educator, been teaching 10 years, hope to got another 10 years in me, but I'm really interested to know what you've got to say in terms of, there's a great attitude of reflection that I try and instill to students, but what else can we instill in them in terms of the future and the whole design? You know, you've got a role to play in this. Like, how do we inspire them to kind of get engaged in this sort of conversation?
Can I just come in on that? Yeah. Just because we've got a sort of example. So we've sort of built a bit of a relationship with SciTech. And obviously SciTech are sort of renowned for technology and science and STEM stuff. But with their new exhibition, Earth Matters, they actually ran a design process with the school kids. And the school kids actually said to them, we don't want more robots, technology without purpose. They said, we're worried about the future. So them actually turning the design process over and facilitating the design process rather than dictating what it was going to be about, they have actually come up with something that, you know, the kids actually want. So I think there's that is opening up that dialogue. So the stuff that Chris has actually presented, reflecting on it with that example, I think is really powerful. It's like, you know, critiquing the stuff that we're designing, the way that the world works at the moment, some of it which is designed, some of it's just evolved. From a kid's perspective and what sort of future that they would like to see. I think it's really powerful. If you guys want to add to that.
I think that's great. I'm just going to throw it even deeper for you two, because how do we then redesign education to get it being creative?
That's good. I like big, deep questions.
You have another 3 hours. We've got like 6 months to answer that question. I think
I've got to go cook dinner in a minute. So.
Okay, we've got 5 minutes then. Okay.
So just quickly, if I can, sorry, just interject. So we might go for another 10 minutes if everyone's comfortable. If you need to drop out of the call, you can drop out of the call. This is going to be recorded and it will be posted out on our YouTube channel afterwards, so you'll be able to keep in touch. So we might just go a bit further than planned. So thanks, everyone. Yeah, back to you, Erica, Chris.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess I ran a workshop last year with Rosamond Senior High School, and they came at me with a question, and they did something quite classic, which I get quite a lot, where they said, you know, can we run a design thinking workshop so we can fix all of our problems? And I said, what, in 3 hours? So I basically said to them, what we can do is we can find out what's really happening, you know, in the room for the school that you're working within. And I know they were having difficulty with the staff getting on board with, I think the statement they had, it was futurism again. It was to do with how can they, you know, get students ready for the future. And what we had to do, you know, kind of at the very beginning of that session is find out what everybody thought that word meant. I broke it down into very simple basics to start with. And I think, David, you know, how can you change how you're working in the classroom, and how can you get kids engaged? I think the best way to do that is to in that room, when we did that, and I showed everyone in the room, after everyone wrote down what their idea of what future meant and what readiness meant, everyone had a completely different idea of what it was. And so when we put that all together and put it on a wall, everyone was quite shocked that there was so many different interpretations of those ideas. That there needs to be a forum, I guess, or a place where you can come together and everyone gets to say, you know, what their ideas are, and then you can collate them and work out how to move forward. I think with the students that I have, they don't think they have any power as designers. I think they think they're going to go out to the world and make very small changes. But I've instilled in them that design is enormously powerful. We live our lives through it every day. And education is one of those spaces that's been designed, maybe not at the moment to give enough power, but you have the potential in that space to give enormous power to your students. I guess just like what Andrew was saying here with the SciTech project, we've been working with SciTech doing the same thing. And the power that you have with design to completely shift how people feel and what they want and create desire and whatever it may be, every student in that space, they need to know that. So that might be a really good building block, just to let them know and instill in them that they have enormous space to have a say, do something quite critical. And it could be, through play, or it could be through discovery, or it could be through experiments, who knows? It could be through really basic things, but to instill that idea that you as a single person has incredible power to make change occur. That's a really good starting point.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'd just like to bring Joel Birch in here if we can as well. He had a really good comment in the chat. But so Joel, through his work at Vericious Business Co and Firebird Learning, works quite a lot in the education system. Joel, did you want to come in and contribute?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of that. I said in the chat, my big hunch is that real meaningful change in what society considers education and how the education system works isn't going to come from inside the education system. It's going to come from all the related players and stakeholders that connect to and expand from the education system. So, I've sort of been trying to train myself into the habit of talking, rather than just talking about the education system, talking about the education system and ecosystem. And I mean, I think it's really evident. We've been talking about schools and kids wanting to think about and talk about the future. And you talk to individual teachers and it's that, those long-term needs and that kind of helping kids build to their highest, the highest future possibility of themselves. But that's kind of in direct conflict with the large-scale needs of an education system, or like a state education system, or one of the big providers. So those are kind of in direct conflict, and I think the most obvious place to see that is in a school's mission statement, which is often written by the people who work there and who know the kids face to face, and they usually contain words like lifelong learning and kind of intrinsic motivation and global citizens and 21st century learning, authentic learning and things like that. But in reality, what that plays out as, lifelong learning. If you're a primary school, you lose track of the kids after their 12th birthday. If you're a secondary school, you lose track of them after their 17th or 18th birthday. How do you qualify that? They talk about intrinsic motivation, but schools aren't judged on, and they're not measured on kids' motivation. They're measured on how well they do as measured against the curriculum. We talk about global citizenship, but we lock down their internet access. And it's kind of this tension between things that the people know are worth learning and the things that can become a measurable KPI. And it's the things outside of education that aren't bound to that. So I think that's really where the big change is possible.
That's awesome, Joel. Thanks.
David, a very quick one to your question, how to get students to be more reflective. The way I look at it is that one side you've got reflective practice. The other opposite side of things is assumption. So what I normally do with my unit, that if it's more of an exploratory and discovery project, I would ban students from going to the computer until the last 3 weeks. So no solutions until you have understood the stories, until you have heard stories from other people involved in the situation, until you can retell these stories to other people. Like what Joel was saying, storytelling is a very powerful tool in terms of understanding situation, as much as when you're retelling the stories, reflections happen. So key is, for me, my approach is to pull students away from solutions until they really understood what is the complexity involved. So reflections actually allowed us to actually understand these layers of complexity. That's my quick approach. So no computer until the last 3 weeks.
Fair enough.
That's awesome. And just a quick shout out to David Youngman. So Dave's joining us, I think, from Bunbury tonight, is it, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah, so I've recently met Dave, and he's attended some of our Circular Economy Perth events in person. An incredible teacher and leader, I think, in the economics education sector, around wanting to bring in this sort of circular economics into high school education, and doing a lot of great work teaching online and in blended learning environments. So if you're interested in any of Dave's work, definitely connect with him and reach out. He's doing some amazing things, and it's much needed. We often talk about in our work how people are coming out of, whether it's high schools or academic institutions, learning both the right things and the wrong things, but not being taught 21st century thinking, or whatever you want to call it. And I think Dave's one of the pioneers. He's definitely really inspired me in our work with working with younger humans. So it's great to see you tonight, Dave. I'm going to quickly, thanks for joining. One more question from David 1, and I'm going to sort of paraphrase or summarize it, which was around life cycle thinking and life cycle design. So David asked, or sort of created a question and a statement in the chat that I put here on Miro. So he said, there needs to be a useful outcome for design, especially in a circular economy. Is the initial design only its specified design, or is it for what the design can be used for after its useful life has been reached? So I sort of paraphrase that, or sort of another question on top of that, is how do we design for multiple life cycles? So say, a building or a school, or school's a building as well, but even, whether it's, I'm trying to think of other things, a book or other things like physical products, put that maybe to both Erica and Chris. Are we doing that? Do you think we'll ever get to that thinking, dragging out time as a context and thinking of designing for multiple lives when it comes to, not just products, but services and other things that we're designing as well?
I guess if it's okay to kind of launch into that one, I guess this comes down to, I guess what Chris was talking about before about the 90s and how it gave us all, really, let's face it, a really bad name because of, consumerism and pumping out stuff. It gave this idea that, solutions were the end of the line and it was done. I don't know about you guys, but every day I still have to keep getting out of bed, and it doesn't ever seem to end. And I don't think that's going to end until I die, funny enough. So in which case, that's made me believe that life is continuous, and design is also, in that case, continuous. It doesn't actually end. So I guess when it comes to teaching my students about design, even if they are designing a product, and there's nothing wrong with designing products, because those are the tangible moments where we do interact with something, so they are quite valuable, but they should never be seen as the end. They shouldn't, I guess, ever be seen as, even if you buy a car, for example, you shouldn't, I guess, it would be lovely to think that's the only car that you're ever going to buy. And in fact, I wish that we could reshape the automobile industry so that they stop, measuring their value by how many cars they sell, and more about how can we keep this one car alive for the whole of our existence. That would be way better design. So design needs to be embedded instead of it being this kind of, stop. It's solution based right now, which Chris knows this very well. I don't even like the word solution, and I refuse to use it in my programs because it gives the idea that something's going to finish. And design actually never finishes, because it is naturally circular. And even when you do create a product, you should then, I guess, coming back to David's thing about reflecting, then you reflect on that moment and have a look at it and say, well, it's working in some ways, it needs improvement. Everything requires improvement or adjustment, or everything is continuous. That's how I see design in that way. So
yeah. The key here is object-driven or process-driven. I mean, if we ask the question, how can I design a new chair? Then you come up with a lot of different chairs endlessly. But if you actually ask the question, how can we design a better sitting experience or more sustainable sitting experience? Then the focus is on something that has no end. It's always, we need to look at design as a feedback loop. Whatever that we design will have a reaction from the community. So from that sense, I think it's a bit of a tricky one, because if we actually say that we preempt that, okay, the first cycle of the design, the purpose is this, and then second, when the purpose ends, it becomes that. the danger of that is that we're actually preempting what it could be or what it should be. But design is never that, because, okay, let's say if you want to design a office that's gonna in 10 years time turn into something else, but in 10 years time, the society is totally different. We don't know what's going to happen. So whatever is going to happen in 10 years time is going to dictate what that building is going to be. So one good example is building 201 in Curtin University. It was designed to be something else, but as students and staff members start to cramp in, it became, yeah.
Building's ridiculous.
I
used to call it the Millennium Falcon because on the back of the building it's got this funny shape. It looks exactly like the back of the Millennium Falcon. It does.
But if you look at the design concept with the first idea, where the architect designed, it was supposed to be wherever you stand in the inside of it, you can see everything and you can actually converse, talk to another student at the end of that building. But as it evolved, the people who used the building actually destroyed the design.
It's like a Harry Potter building. It's got stairwells to nowhere. It's
you've got half a story. So what I'm trying to get to is that it is good to actually pre-think about how a design could have a second life and third life and so forth, so it never ends. But at the same time, we need to realize that there's fluidity in design, because how people use design always depends on the context of that time. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's always a circuit. It's always a feedback loop. Cybernetics. Some of the engineers would know that.
Yeah. Great. Design never ends, does it? One of the things that came up for me, I think Chris, you might have said it, is I was thinking a couple of things, like a play on future and design, but we can't talk about the future of design without talking about the future. But I think that's what this event's been about tonight, is how can we think, even our role as designers, or just humans in general, how can we think differently and be better designers? But how can we act on and co-create, Erica, you mentioned co-design, how can we create a better future? Not just for us individually, but, for everyone on the planet. I think that's a big part of what inspires me in our work at Holonic and at Circular Economy Perth, and collaborating and working with all you great humans. So I'd like to, just give a big thanks to everyone here in Perth CBD that came along and got involved. So to Joel, to Erica, to Chris, to Andrew as well. So we're going to make sure we get out information on all their great work and how you can get in touch. I know you can attend ECU or Murdoch University, some of their great education design courses that are led by both Erica and Chris. You can go along to Joel's events, his workshops. If you're working in the education system or in corporate or as a business, you can engage him and bring him in to inject a bit of creativity and play into your life. And of course, you can get involved with Circular Economy Perth and also have a chat with both Andrew and myself about the work we do at Holonic. So what I'd like to do is just a quick check out with everyone. I guess I might just quickly share my screen and bring back the Miro board. So just thanks to everyone. So tonight was about the future of design, and it was about trying to make an interactive and intentionally designed experience and dialogue about the future of design, talking about design all the way from cool to complex. So thanks again to Space Cubed and to the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, who funds and supports these events for 2020 through their Waste Authority Community and Industry Engagement Fund. So without state government support, we wouldn't be able to design and host and put on these great events. I think this is the 10th or 11th event that we've run this year, which has been good fun, particularly through a global pandemic and pivoting and putting things both online and in person. A quick shout out to Andrew and I are both involved with NENA, which is the New Economy Network Australia. So the New Economy Network Australia, the Perth Hub, is hosting an awesome event and unconvention at the Naval Store in Fremantle. So that's on Saturday, the 21st November, all day. So if you're an organisation or a business that you think you're operating in the new economy space, so the circular economy is considered sort of the new economy or the next economy, you should be there. You can host a stall from as little as $80. So myself, and many other clients and sort of leaders in the circular economy space in WA will be there. You can also attend as well. So we'll send out some more information as part of this event tonight. And that's sort of being weaved in with Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is November 16th to 22nd. Yeah, so Chris and Joel will share out their PDF slides. We'll put them in the Miro board. Before you go tonight, if you're still on Miro, please leave us some feedback, both for Joel's activity in the Lego, but also just for the event as a whole. I know we had a few tech issues tonight that we were sort of just rolling with, and we've used and Lego issues as well, lack of things to build with. But also this was the first time we'd used Miro, so thanks for your patience and understanding with that. Yeah, and the Miro board will stay there. We won't delete it, won't be going anywhere. Another quick shout out, so just here at the top right of the board, so all the proceeds from tonight's event is going to be donated to Ride Fair and their pending crowdfunding campaign. So Ride Fair is what I like to call an EthTech, which stands for ethical tech. So it's an alternative, a better, more circular version of a rideshare app and platform that supports the local economy, that supports local drivers. So click through that link if you want to learn a bit more about Ride Fair. So if you made a donation to the event tonight, all the proceeds will be going and donated to Ride Fair. I think we'll probably have raised a couple $100 for them. So thanks for that. There's more info there about Joel's business and more info there about us at Holonic and some of the other collaborative projects nationally that we're involved in. Yeah, I think that's about it from me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So big thanks. Yeah, just leave some feedback in the Zoom chat. Thank you for attending tonight. We really appreciate it. And we will see you again in a month's time. So on November the 24th, we'll be meeting in person in Perth for the launch of the Australian Circular Economy Hub, which is a project being led by Planet Arc, funded by the federal government in Australia. Super exciting. We've been contributing to that for the last sort of 12 or 14 months. And it's really sowing the seeds for the transition in Australia, but connecting people all across the world and all across Australia in this space. And it's going to be sort of leading up to a really big party and celebrating this great weather in Perth, but a challenging year that we've all had, I think, but all these new opportunities sort of moving into 2021 for everyone that's part of this community, but just through their work and life as well. So thanks again. We look forward to seeing you next time on the 24th of November.